So just doing a walkthrough of our recently completed home theater setup. This is the entryway to our home. Sort of as you move through the entryway to the right, there's a hallway here that leads to some of the rooms in the garage. This room used to be open, and so we put in this wall, and for fun, we also then put in these sliding shelves, which then hide the door to the theater. We have 3 very large dogs who can be kind of a pain in the ass when they always want to come in and out. So we put in a 2-layer dog door that actually has dual flaps to provide some acoustic dampening. It's not as good as having a solid core door, but it was an acceptable trade-off. This is the room itself. So this has a Theory Audio 9.6.6 setup. So 9 base layer speakers, 6 Atmos channels, 6 subs. So we managed to, in this space, which is like, the original room is like 10 feet high by 15 wide by, I want to say 25 feet deep. I could have the dimensions wrong. But this is probably as close as you would want to have the front row. It could even be a little farther back, but just to get 2 rows and to get the number of people we wanted to be able to have in here, we kind of had to make that trade-off. But from the main position, it actually, I'm really happy with it. We worked with Matt Pose on the acoustic design. I wish that's one thing I wish I had started earlier. I probably would have started with working with Matt as opposed to bringing him in mid-cycle. I would say that I'm very happy with how the acoustics of the room have panned out, but if anything, we went a little overboard on the absorption because like the noise floor in here is like negative 75 dB. It's super, super quiet. In fact, it could be a little livelier, but again, very happy with what we turned out acoustically. Matt also advised us on things like canting in our wide channel speakers. So again, we have 2 side channels. The first ones are angled in to get better performance at the main listening position. We've got some Skyline diffusers here, and then 2 good diffusers that bracket the front row, just to get a little extra great performance. So we have a 138-inch Stewart film screen for the front. That then reflects back. We have a JVC NZ800 projector, which is recessed into the back wall. Basically, the guy we started working with, who turned out to be a train wreck, didn't check the throw distance for the projector before we ordered it, and so we couldn't fit it in the room. This actually ended up being a blessing rather than a curse, because we now have acoustically clear or optically clear glass that then buffers the projector from the room, so it's completely quiet, no noise bleed over. For temperature control within the room, we have 2 things going on here. So one, under the rear row of seating was a register that we were going to just cap off when we closed this room in, but what we ended up doing instead is putting a vent in there with a thermostat. And so it pulls cool air through a filter out of our crawl space, which is fairly large, into the room. That stays in the high 60s, and so it keeps the room in a really comfortable temperature. And then when you do fill this room up with people, like my son had a bunch of his friends over last night, and after 2 hours of watching Aliens in 4K, it gets pretty toasty in here. And so we have also a mini split in the ceiling to provide air conditioning as needed. But generally, we don't use that. And then there's also, I should mention as well, that we don't just pull air in. We also have an exhaust vent in that corner over there that has a super quiet fan with acoustic dampening in the actual vent that pulls that fan, the hot air out of the ceiling into our garage. Again, so it's sort of air in, air out. The air coming in from this crawl space is cool. If we outstrip that with putting a bunch of people in here, we can fall back to what is a pretty quiet mini split. It's not as quiet as the fans, but it's still quite quiet. This is the exterior for what we ended up doing for our projector. So again, to get the optimal throw distance, we actually had to pull the projector back out of the room and build a box around it on the exterior of the house. So it sits under this kind of exterior upper bedroom. And then the other thing we ran into is that thing generates a ton of heat. It's kind of a light cannon. And so what we ended up doing is running a duct from that box. All of this also pulls cool air from the crawl space through a dust filter, and then it has its own thermostat, and you can see louvered vents. And so when the projector's running, and once it heats up, it will start to then pump air out of that, and it keeps the, it keeps it, we were getting thermal shutdowns before. Now it can run, handily run through a set of, of movies at full speed, and we can keep the projector cool. This is the rack setup that powers the theater. So this is across the hall from the theater, and so as you can imagine, there is a wad of cabling that goes through a conduit, goes up over the ceiling, and then feeds that whole room. So as I mentioned, here are the amps for the Theory audio setup. Again, 2 sub-amps, because the Theory audio system, I think it'll support up to 4 subs per amp, and so we had to bring in an extra sub. We ended up actually using the additional sub channels because we've wired in tactile subwoofers under the seating for the front and rear rows, and so Theory gives me the ability to then blend that really nicely into the overall acoustic experience in the room, so that the tactile subwoofers that are physically attached to the seats, they pick up at just below where the subwoofers bottom out and give a really nice sort of, you kind of can feel some of the lower end bass. This is a MadVR Envy, highest end unit. Super happy with that. So that's basically doing AI image processing on a per frame basis to give us even better performance out of our JVC 800. And this is a Storm Audio 24 channel main component to run the whole setup. On the bottom row, we have a 22 terabyte NAS, which sort of stores all our digital media, obviously primarily digital versions of 4K movies, but also like a music library. And then this is literally just an air scrubber, because we have 3 big dogs, and between the dandruff and the hair, this scrubs the air before it gets sucked into the NAS, which runs 24/7, so it doesn't get too cluttered. And then we run Ubiquity networking through all our whole house, and so this switch powers that. And then just to top things off, we live in a kind of semi-rural area, so I have basically a battery backup, which keeps the cable modem and our home networking alive in the event that we have an outage that outstrips the whole house battery backup we have through Tesla Powerwalls, which, by the way, also have a side benefit of giving us super clean power into this system.